Hey guys, welcome back to LS Vintage Design. How's everyone doing? I hope you're having an amazing day. Today we are talking vintage crafts. And vintage crafts can mean two different things. It can mean you actually find a vintage craft kit, which isn't as hard as you may think, since 2000 and back is considered vintage. Remember, 25 years. So 2000 and back, or 2001 and back is considered vintage. So there's lots of vintage kits available. You just have to find them at garage sales, estate sales, maybe in your thrift store when somebody goes through and cleans out their home. You may find them in antique malls. So definitely easy to find a true vintage craft kit. Another way is to take something vintage and craft it into something else. And we're going to get into both of those. Before we do, I just want to say, if you have not hit that subscribe button yet, go ahead and do that and give the video a like at the end. It helps me out, costs you nothing, and takes about a second for you to do. Okay, now we're going to jump into our video. We're going to talk about these Avon needlepoint craft kits. These were available in the 70s. They are all here. I checked before I listed them for sale. And they're great. They come with the yarn, they come with the image printed on the canvas, the yarn. The only thing they don't have, well, some of them have, some of them may not have, is the needle. That was the one thing missing out of all of them. But I'm going to put a needle in if there's not one, so they will be fully complete. So this is one type of craft kit you can definitely find. Now these are from the 70s, so you do have to look a little bit. What are some other types of craft kits that you can find? Well, you can find these Crayola Color Me mugs from the 70s. There's a Crayola kit for travel. That one's from the 50s, so it might be a little harder to find. There are stained glass kits galore from the 90s, the 80s, 2000, all the way back to at least the 70s. You just have to find them. And then of course you can also find modeling kits, wood burning kits, little sewing kits where you do the pot holders, knitting kits where you do the pot holders and you take them off the thing like this. So there are a ton of kits available when you remember that the year 2001 and back is vintage. Okay guys, now let's talk about the other type of vintage crafting you can do. And that involves finding something vintage and creating something new with it. I've got a couple of ideas for you here, and then I'll show you some more in pictures. First of all, there are a lot of vintage books out there, and they're in bad shape. They might have pictures moving and a lot of stuff. These are that. I mean, they're not worth anything because their covers are destroyed. There are pages missing inside. So what can you do with these books? You can't read them. You can't, sell them because they're not whole. They're horrible condition. What can you do? Well, you can make junk journals out of them. And you take out the pages. You can use those in junk journals. But you can also use the vintage covers for a junk journal, because you can put a spine inside the book spine. It's called a I think floating spine, because you don't see it and you don't have anything stitched in. So you can use old books for junk journals. Now, you can also use these, stack them, drill a hole through them, and create a lamp. You can seal them together and use them as bookends. And how cool would that be to make vintage books that you can't read into bookends? Makes the meaning of bookends, takes it to a whole other level, don't you think? So that's just some ideas you could use vintage books for. Now, vintage bottles, this one's kind of faded. I'm not gonna do it, but I'm gonna give you the idea. If you wanted to, you could paint it. You could paint it inside with the paint you pour in, swirl around, that sort of thing. You could paint it outside. You could decoupage over it. Or you could do a mosaic over it. And we're going to talk more about mosaic in a minute. So you don't have to leave these vintage bottles like this. Now let's talk about some items I don't have, so I'm going to show you some pictures. I always love to get these vintage cheese graters. And one thing you can do with them is create hanging pendant lights. How cool is that? You can also use them as pencil caddies, scissor caddies on your desk. You could use them as a vase. Now the next thing that you can turn into something else are vintage rolling pins. I did a whole video on vintage rolling pins. I'm going to put the link here. But you can paint on them. Great for, say, Christmas, like these. You can also decoupage them or paint them or cover them in fabrics and just make them beautiful decor. If you want more ideas, check out the video. Now, let's talk vintage plates. Maybe you find some, you love the colors, you love the patterns, but they're chipped or something. What can you do? Well, you can break them up and use them for mosaics. Mosaics on what? On tabletops, on trays, as stepping stones. You can create mosaics anywhere basically that you can glue the broken plate down and smear or smudge or put on the stuff that goes in between, mortar. Okay, so vintage plate. You can also hang vintage plates on the wall just as wall art, or create a really cool like window valance, something like these. And lastly, let's talk about vintage clothes. You can definitely turn those into different things, being crafty as well, like a vintage t-shirt quilt. You can also take two vintage shirts, marry them together in some cool way, and get a new shirt that you definitely want to wear. A lot of people will take vintage clothes dummies from, the 50s, 60s, and put some unique clothes on them and use them as decor in a bedroom. Cool idea. Wish I had the space. I would definitely do that. You could also use vintage clothes to make cool throw pillows or decorative pillows for a bedroom. You can also make curtains. You could make placemats, tablecloths, or table runners as well. So vintage clothes, beyond recreating into new clothes, have a lot of potential purpose. So guys, I hope you got a lot of ideas, and maybe you're going to look at something that's old and vintage that you were going to throw out, and maybe I've given you ways to repurpose it, or maybe keep it the same and change the way it looks, like this. Now this is a vintage lamp. I love the shape of it, but of course it wasn't pink, didn't have any gold on it. So I spray painted it, I rubbed on some gold leaf, and boom. And then I bought the lampshade. So there you go. I have a really unique piece. I crafted it up. I know that's not a word. And I made this really cool lamp. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and click that little bell and click all. Doesn't bother you at all, doesn't ding, doesn't do anything. It just will put a red dot by that red bell when I post a new video. Also, don't forget, give the video a thumbs up if I gave you a great idea, if you're going to go out and look for vintage. Leave me a comment down below if you made it to the end of the video. Vintage airplane craft kits. Airplane craft kits. Leave it down below if you made it this far. And don't forget, look down there too, because I've asked you a couple of questions and I'd really love to know the answer. You guys engaging with me on these videos helps me grow, helps my channel get more opportunities, and I sure would appreciate it. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Follow me on Facebook because I will be posting some things that don't go here, and follow me on Instagram as well. Take care. Bye guys.